Hello, my dears. Let's have a chat here today, and we're going to talk about what's happening in Brazil. I'm here in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. It's a wonderful place, okay? Some impressions you might ask me, Andrea Gonçalves, would you live there? I would. Would you live in Paris? I wouldn't. Would you live in Brussels? I would. And I would live here too. I'll tell you why later. We'll talk more about various topics on other occasions. But anyway, I want to talk to you, and I'm going to pull up the leaked photo here. This photo here, look at the photo. Take a look. Look at this photo. Flávio Bolsonaro together with the hitman. The hitman, this guy, this fellow here, who is obviously not a fellow at all. He was the one who was suicided there at the federal police headquarters in Minas Gerais. He was part of the most violent core of Daniel Vorcaro's mafia. Flávio Bolsonaro released two statements about this photo here. Look, in the first statement he said he didn't know if this photo was manipulated by artificial intelligence and so on, and that he didn't know the hitman and so on and so forth. Then the next day he deleted that part of his statement, saying that he takes pictures with a lot of people, that a lot of people want to take pictures with him, right? But the thing is, he wasn't in a public place, right? He was in a private place, so much so that he was, let's say, half naked. He was in a secure private setting. So for him to say he doesn't know who Daniel is, who the hitman is in this context is really shameless, isn't it? It's very cynical, and we can't take that as the truth. He even released a statement, then deleted that part, saying that he took pictures with everyone and so on. But as I keep saying, he was in a secure setting. He was even half naked. Because it was an environment with close people he felt comfortable with, especially because he's a public figure. Being a public figure, he wouldn't expose himself like that in an environment where he wasn't protected by people he knows and feels are safe for that. So his claim that he didn't know, that he wasn't aware, falls apart, especially after the change from the first statement to this second one. In other words, he knew the hitman. Sicario, hitman, which means killer, and he was part of the most violent core of Daniel Vorcaro's mafia. Isn't it weird to have a pigeon looking at me here, guys? Curious, curious, curious. Oh, Jesus. But anyway, so that's the first situation, right? Yeah, I've already told you there are several other things that will still be revealed, right? But not everything can be revealed at once. After all, otherwise people will forget. Everything will be revealed gradually so that we know, understand, and don't forget who Flávio Bolsonaro is. Who claims to be a public safety official, who claims to stand for family values and all that. But soon we will discover more and more situations every day that will show exactly what he doesn't stand for. None of that. Nothing about family, nothing about God, nothing about country, nothing about Jesus, nothing about public security. On the contrary, he is, it seems, on the other side of history, in collusion together with those who don't stand for family values, together with those who stand for crime, shady dealings, banditry, the mafia, and so on. Because if you stop to think about it, everyone who is close to Flávio Bolsonaro is going down. A bunch of people are being arrested, a bunch of people are being charged, and he's always on the side of those people. And he claims to stand for safety, stand for family values, but he never did. And the schemes will be exposed, and this is just the beginning. So you can go ahead and say Lula Tetra, okay? Another important point regarding the letter released by Flávio Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro's letter to Brazilians. What happened? Alexandre de Moraes did not move Bolsonaro to a closed prison regime. Bolsonaro remains under house arrest, but Alexandre de Moraes decided that Flávio Bolsonaro will not be allowed to have contact with his father, the convicted prisoner, for 90 days. Then you ask Andrea Gonçalves, what are your thoughts? Is this right or wrong? Alexandre de Moraes did not fall into the trap they wanted. They wanted Alexandre de Moraes to order Bolsonaro's return to jail, so they could bring back that whole situation of the poor, miserable guy being persecuted by Alexandre de Moraes' communist dictatorship and all that nonsense that nobody can stand anymore. What did Alexandre de Moraes do? He distanced Flávio from Bolsonaro. Then the defense, afraid that Alexandre de Moraes might tighten the regime because he can do that and send Bolsonaro back to jail, what did the defense say? They said that Flávio tricked his father, that Flávio Bolsonaro tricked Bolsonaro, that the letter wasn't supposed to be made public. But wait a minute, the letter was addressed to the Brazilian people. If it wasn't supposed to be made public, why was it addressed to the Brazilian people? So guys, he's doing this because he's afraid of going back to Papuda. That's why his defense came up with this excuse, this weak and ridiculous excuse, right? That's the situation. And can Alexandre de Moraes send Bolsonaro back to Papuda? He can, but he won't do that. He won't do that because that's exactly what the far right wants. What for? Playing the victim, acting miserable, and bringing back all that electoral committee nonsense in Papudinha? Then Alexandre de Moraes suspended Flávio from visiting Bolsonaro for 90 days. Then AB got involved in the story. Oh, because Flávio is a lawyer, so Flávio can visit his father. Wait, stop everything. Flávio Bolsonaro visits Bolsonaro not as a lawyer. Flávio Bolsonaro is not Bolsonaro's lawyer. That talk from AB is just nonsense. And here's the thing, if he were a lawyer, he would be defending his father, and he's not defending his father. He's causing a situation that could make his father, the prisoner, go back to a closed prison regime. If that's being a lawyer, then he's the devil's lawyer. That has to be it. Then there's no way this situation can continue, and the Bar Association is wrong, or the Bar Association is wrong. They're getting into a situation that doesn't concern them. Period. And Alexandre de Moraes is letting it slide. For me, if you want to know, do you want to know what I think? I think it's not enough. He should go back to prison, and that's it. It's over. But how? Alexandre de Moraes doesn't want all that whining to come back about being poor, miserable, and persecuted. He's not going to do that. And Bolsonaro's defense cynically says that the letter wasn't supposed to be made public. If it wasn't supposed to be made public, it wouldn't exist. If it wasn't supposed to be made public, the Brazilian people wouldn't be there. So that's just nonsense. Do you get it, my dear? It's always something. Polls, a new poll comes out. Poll. In the first round, Lula has 40% in voter intention polls, and Flávio Bolsonaro has 28%. Flávio is in free fall. With the margin of error, Lula could reach up to 43%. I've said this before and I'll repeat it. Lula has a great chance of winning in the first round. No, it's not even because of Lula's work. Not that Lula doesn't work, I always tell you that. It's just that many times Brazilians are really ungrateful and don't recognize things. So we have to say this. But it's because of Flávio's downfall and the whole situation that's coming to light. There's a noisy train coming over there, but let's keep going. Because of the whole situation with the schemes and everything that's being revealed about Flávio. And I repeat, this is just the beginning. So in the first round, Lula wins with 40%, Flávio is dropping to 28%. And in the second round, Lula wins with more than 45% of the voting intentions. In the poll that came out yesterday, this is natural given everything that's gradually coming out, which I repeat is just the beginning. Soon there will be the video of the big orgy. Oh my God. The big orgy at Daniel Vocar's party with Vocaro and Caskenga, right? Yeah, then they say they're all about God, the priest, and family. I can only imagine what would happen if they weren't. Another important situation. Tariff. The United States imposed a 25% tariff on Brazilian products. Lula released a statement saying that this is absurd. That this is really persecution. It's the far right of Donald Trump trying to attack Lula's left-wing government. But this had a negative impact, right? Because we know who's behind this and who's responsible for it. Which is exactly the Bolsonaro family, especially Eduardo Bolsonaro. Nevertheless, they keep trying all the time to avoid taking responsibility. They did everything to make this happen. And they're trying to claim that the tariffs are Lula's fault. But that doesn't work anymore, right? Everyone knows there are several videos of Flávio Bolsonaro saying, if we have a scorched earth scenario, at least we'll be avenged. A series of situations that we know have a name, a specific person responsible, and a definite address. And there is someone responsible for this, notably Eduardo Bolsonaro, supported by all the extremist Bolsonaro supporters who think the worse things get, the better. They don't care if Brazil is doing badly. They don't care if Brazil is going to get screwed. The important thing is that the left, that communism gets crushed and falls apart. We already know all this nonsense, this bedtime story. It's getting tiring, isn't it? But, you know, Flávio even tried, right? He even tried to go there, went to the United States, asked Trump not to impose tariffs. At least not to impose tariffs now, to wait until after the election, because it wouldn't be good for them right now. But anyway, what stood out? Traitors to the country. Who are the traitors to the country? The Bolsonaro family. They fight against the country. They are against the country. They attack our sovereignty. They attack pigs. And there's no way to undo this situation that has become very clear. Context. This is negative, especially for Flávio Bolsonaro. They tried, they took a shot, they tried to hit Lula's government, and it backfired. It hit the Bolsonaro supporters right in the forehead. And you know what I think? I think it's not enough. Do you know why? Because, guys, how is that possible? You know, being right-wing is one thing, being left-wing is another, being centrist is something else, and that's all fine. Political pluralism is part of the democratic rule of law. But from the moment you are against yourself, against your own people, against your own nation, you deserve jail, you deserve to be locked up, you deserve to go into the dustbin of history. You get it? And that's what's happening. That's why there's so much desperation. And it didn't work. And it didn't work. It's Lula's responsibility. The responsibility lies with those who are there. They're sabotaging, working against Brazil. And that became very, very clear, thank God, and thanks to the intelligence of the people. I've already said you can be right-wing, left-wing, or whatever you want, but you can't be a fool. Everything has its limits, even stupidity. That's the situation, you see? Put it there, Lula, for a fourth term, Flávio, traitor of the nation. If you like it, stay. If you don't, go screw yourself, and everything's just fine. And at any moment, I'll be back again, okay? During my vacation, during my joyful time. I am overjoyed and renewed. I'm already renewed, eager to come back already, but also eager to experience other things, right? Here, for example, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, look at the context, right? Poverty in Brazil, more than 80% of the population in Brazil is poor. Here, less than 7% are poor. Then you might say, Andre, is everyone rich there? No, that's not the point. It's not about wealth, it's about equality. Isn't it? And it's very interesting. And the big problem in Brazil is the huge inequality. The left is fighting precisely to reduce this inequality, and this far right and the right often fight to maintain this inequality. Because they benefit from poverty, they benefit from the labor force, they benefit from the workers who produce wealth but don't enjoy that wealth. And for them, it's very convenient for things to stay that way. That's why we always say here that we are the resistance, exactly because this has to change. All right? Sending you a kiss. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye. See you later.